My mom called me her life's biggest regret at every family gathering. So I walked out forever and built a fortune while she lost everything and now works at my company's warehouse. Hi everyone. Before we dive in, show some love by subscribing and commenting where in the world you're joining us from. Alright, let's get back to the story. I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. Not cracked, shattered. It was my 23rd birthday and I'd driven 6 hours to attend what I thought would be a celebration. My cousin Janelle's engagement party was the same weekend, and Mom insisted I come home for both. Family is everything, baby girl, she'd said on the phone, her voice dripping with that syrupy sweetness she used when she wanted something. The restaurant was packed with relatives I hadn't seen in months. Aunties with their elaborate hairstyles, uncles in their Sunday best, cousins everywhere. I'd brought gifts, dressed up, even took time off from my entry-level marketing job. My younger brother Patrick sat beside Mom, golden boy as always, fresh off his latest business failure that Mom called just a temporary setback. Then Uncle Jerome raised his glass for a toast. To Janelle and her future. Everyone cheered. Then he turned to me. And happy birthday to our girl too. The restaurant erupted in that awkward remembering too late kind of applause. I smiled, grateful someone remembered. That's when Mom's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Well, Jerome, some birthdays are worth celebrating more than others. The table went quiet. She took a long sip of her wine, looking directly at me with those cold eyes I'd seen too many times. I mean, let's be honest. Having her was my life's biggest regret. Should have focused on my career instead. The words hung in the air like smoke. My Aunt Patricia gasped. Janelle's mouth fell open. But Mom? Mom just shrugged and turned back to Patrick, laughing about something on his phone. 23 years of subtle digs, comparisons and coldness suddenly crystallized into one devastating truth. My own mother wished I'd never been born. I sat frozen, fork halfway to my mouth as conversations slowly resumed around me. But I was drowning in memories, flashbacks hitting me like waves. I was 8 years old again, watching Mom beam at Patrick's mediocre report card while mine, straight A's, sat unopened on the counter. You're naturally smart, she'd said dismissively. Patrick has to work harder, so his B's mean more. I was 13, crying in my room because she'd missed my track championship to watch Patrick's basketball team lose by 30 points. He needed me there, she'd explained later. You were going to win anyway. You didn't need me. The message was clear. My successes didn't require her presence, but Patrick's failures demanded her attention. I was 17, acceptance letter to a prestigious university in hand, scholarship included. Mom had barely looked up from her phone. That's nice, honey. Did you hear Patrick got that part-time job at the mall? I'm so proud of him for taking initiative. My initiative, 4 years of grinding, volunteering, leading clubs, earned me a distracted, that's nice. His job at a sneaker store earned a celebration dinner. The waitress appeared, asking if I wanted dessert. I shook my head, unable to speak. Across the table, my sister Keisha, middle child, neutral Switzerland in our family's Cold War, gave me a sympathetic look. But she wouldn't speak up. He never did. Keisha had mastered the art of being invisible, of not making waves. Sometimes I envied her. You okay? Janelle whispered, leaning over. I nodded, lying. I wasn't okay. I was realizing that every family gathering for the past 2 decades had been peppered with comments like this. Smaller ones, quieter ones, but always there. The funny jokes about me being an accident. The comparisons where Patrick always won. The way Mom introduced me, this is my daughter, versus Patrick, this is my brilliant son. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing air, needing space, needing to breathe without feeling like I was suffocating on my mother's contempt. But Keisha followed me, her heels clicking on the tile floor. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Eyes red, mascara threatening to run, jaw tight with suppressed rage and hurt. She didn't mean it like that, Keisha started, her standard peacekeeping speech ready. You know how Mom gets when she drinks. She just... Don't. My voice came out sharper than intended. Don't make excuses for her. Not tonight. Not anymore. I turned to face my sister, This woman who looked so much like me but had chosen such a different path. She called me her biggest regret. In front of everyone. On my birthday. What part of that has an innocent explanation? Keisha's eyes filled with tears. I know. But if you make a scene, it'll just make everything worse. You know how she is. Just let it go, finish dinner and... Let it go. I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the bathroom walls. Keisha, I've been letting it go my entire life. Every insult, every comparison, every time she chose Patrick over me. When does it stop? When do I matter? My sister grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. You matter to me. To Dad. To Janelle and the cousins. Just not to Mom, and I know that hurts, but you can't change her. You've tried. We've all tried. She is who she is. There was the family motto. She is who she is. As if that excused everything. As if her being consistently cruel was somehow more acceptable than being occasionally kind. I pulled my hand away, straightening my dress, fixing my makeup with mechanical precision. Something had shifted inside me, something fundamental and irreversible. I returned to the table with a calm that surprised even me. Mom was showing Aunt Patricia pictures on her phone. Patrick's new apartment, the one she'd co-signed for despite him having no steady income. He's got such an eye for design, she cooed. Nobody mentioned that I'd been living in a cramped studio, paying my own rent since graduation, never asking for help. I gathered my purse and jacket slowly, deliberately. Patrick noticed first. Where you going? We haven't even done cake yet. His tone was innocent enough, but there was something else there. He knew. Patrick had always known about Mom's favoritism, had benefited from it, had never once questioned it or defended me. I'm leaving, I said simply. The table went quiet again. Mom looked up, irritated. Leaving? The party's just getting started. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive. I repeated the word, tasting its cruelty. You called me your biggest regret, and I'm being sensitive for not wanting to stay for cake? My voice was steady, clear. Every eye in that section of the restaurant was on us now. I'm 23 years old. I've spent every single one of those years trying to earn your love. Trying to be good enough, smart enough, successful enough. And nothing worked. Nothing ever worked. Mom's face hardened. Oh, here we go. The drama. You always were dramatic. Just like your father's side of the family. She waved her hand dismissively as if she could erase me with the gesture. If you can't handle a little joke, that's your problem. I raised you. I fed you. I kept a roof over your head. You're so ungrateful. A joke. My voice rose despite my best efforts. What part of biggest regret sounds like a joke to you? Aunt Patricia touched Mom's arm, trying to calm her, but Mom shook her off. Uncle Jerome started to stand, but I held up my hand. No. I'm done. I'm done begging for scraps of affection. I'm done being the family punching bag. Dad appeared from nowhere. He'd been outside smoking, his weathered face confused, concerned. What's happening here? Baby girl, what's wrong? The nickname he'd called me since birth almost broke my resolve. Almost. Dad was a good man. A quiet man who'd spent 30 years married to a woman who slowly poisoned everything she touched. He'd been a buffer when he could, but he'd also taught me through his silence that keeping peace was more important than standing up for what was right. Ask your wife, I said, my voice cracking. Ask her to repeat what she said about me tonight. About me being her biggest regret. Dad's face fell. He turned to Mom, who rolled her eyes dramatically. It was a joke. Good Lord, she can't take a joke. You've always babied her too much, Robert. That's the problem. Something in Dad's expression shifted. Maybe he was remembering all the times he'd watched her cut me down. All the times he'd pulled me aside after and said, she loves you, she just doesn't know how to show it. All the years of choosing the path of least resistance. Diane, he said quietly, that wasn't a joke. That was cruel. Mom's face flushed red. Oh, so now you're taking her side? Your precious princess can do no wrong, right? Well, maybe if she wasn't so needy, so desperate for attention all the time, I wouldn't feel suffocated by her existence. The words spilled out like venom, and this time she didn't try to take them back. This time she meant every syllable. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Even the staff had stopped moving. Janelle was crying. Keisha looked like she might be sick. Patrick stared at his plate, coward that he was. Me. I felt strangely free. Because finally, after 23 years, my mother had said out loud what I'd always known. She didn't want me. Had never wanted me. I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. Not when Dad called my name. Not when Janelle ran after me in the parking lot, apologizing through tears for something that wasn't her fault. Not when my phone started buzzing with texts from family members who'd witnessed the explosion. I got in my car, drove to my studio apartment 6 hours away, and cried until my throat was raw and my chest ached. The next morning my phone had 73 messages. Most were from relatives taking Mom's side. You embarrassed her in public. Family doesn't air dirty laundry like that. Your mother provided for you your whole life and this is how you repay her? A few were supportive. Janelle, Uncle Jerome, surprisingly Aunt Patricia. But Keisha's message hurt the most. I understand you're hurt, but you really should apologize to Mom. She's devastated. I blocked them all. Every single one who thought I owed that woman an apology. Every relative who'd watched her treat me like garbage for years and said nothing. The silence in my apartment was deafening, but it was honest silence. Not the pretend peace of a family held together by obligation and denial. Work on Monday was a blessing. I threw myself into the campaign I was developing for a small startup. My boss, a sharp woman named Vivian with silver locks and an eye for talent, noticed my intensity. You good? She asked during a break. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She studied me for a moment, then said something that changed everything. Whatever's driving you right now, channel it. Use it. The best revenge is success that makes them irrelevant. That night I started planning. Not just planning, plotting my escape from the poverty of spirit my family offered. I researched business courses, investment strategies, entrepreneurship programs. If my mother's love was something I could never earn, then I'd build something else. Something that didn't require her approval. Something that proved my existence was valuable, significant, necessary, even if she'd never see it. I cut every single family member who'd sided with Mom out of my life completely. Blocked numbers, blocked social media, returned mail unopened. It was scorched earth and it needed to be. My father tried to bridge the gap for a while, but eventually even he stopped calling. Choosing Mom was easier than choosing me. It always had been. The freedom was intoxicating. Without their voices in my head I could finally hear my own. I enrolled in night classes for an MBA while working full-time. Slept 4 hours a night, lived on coffee and determination, and watched my bank account shrink as I invested in myself. My studio apartment became a war room. Whiteboards covered in business strategies, books stacked everywhere, laptop never closed. Vivian became my mentor. She'd built her marketing firm from nothing and she saw something in me that my own family never had. Potential. You've got the hunger, she said one evening as we worked late. Most people want success. You need it. There's a difference. She introduced me to her network. Investors, entrepreneurs, disruptors. People who measured worth in drive and vision, not in blood relation. I launched my first side business at 25. Nothing huge. Consulting for small businesses that couldn't afford big marketing firms. But it taught me everything. Client management, negotiations, the hustle required to build something from zero. My first year I made an extra $30,000. Not life-changing money but proof of concept money. Proof that I could create value, that my ideas had worth. By 26, I'd left Vivian's firm with her blessing to start my own boutique marketing agency. Go build your empire, she said at my goodbye party, hugging me tight. And remember, they don't deserve updates about your success. Let them find out through the grapevine. I took that advice to heart. No social media posts, no announcements, no breadcrumbs for my family to follow. My success would be a ghost story they'd hear whispered about. At 28, my agency had 12 employees and $3 million in annual revenue. We specialized in rebranding businesses that were underestimated, much like I'd been. Small companies run by women, by people of color, by entrepreneurs who'd been told they weren't good enough by traditional investors. We didn't just do their marketing, we told their stories. And their success became our success. I'd moved into a high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Not ostentatious but mine. Paid for with money I'd earned through sleepless nights and relentless work. My team was brilliant. Young, hungry people who reminded me of myself. People who had something to prove. Then came the offer that changed everything. Larry Phillips, a tech venture capitalist whose name carried weight, approached me about investing in an expansion. "Your model is revolutionary," he said over coffee in his downtown office. "You're doing $1 million in profit, but you could be doing 50 million. I want in." The irony of his first name wasn't lost on me. We negotiated for weeks. I wouldn't give up control. I'd learned that lesson, but I'd take his money and connections. 6 months later, we'd opened offices in 3 more cities. Revenue exploded. By 30, my company was valued at $40 million. By 32, it was $100 million. And I was everywhere. Speaking at conferences, featured in business magazines, interviewed on podcasts. The girl nobody wanted had become the woman everyone wanted to know. Through all of it, I hadn't spoken to my family once. Not a single word in 9 years. Sometimes I wondered if they knew. If they'd Googled my name and found the articles. If Mom had seen my face staring out from a magazine cover with the headline, "From Nothing to Everything, the Marketing Maverick Disrupting an Industry." But I never reached out to ask. The call came on a Tuesday. Unknown number, which I normally didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello." Silence. Then breathing. Then a familiar voice I hadn't heard in almost a decade. "It's Keisha." My hand tightened on the phone. "How did you get this number?" My assistant had strict instructions. "No family, no exceptions." "Please don't hang up," she said quickly. "I know I don't deserve your time. I know I chose wrong back then. But I need to tell you something important." Her voice was different. Older, tired. I waited. "It's about Mom and Patrick. Everything's fallen apart. Dad's gone, left her 2 years ago. Moved to Arizona with some woman he met online. Patrick's business. You remember he started that investment thing. It was a scam. Lost everything. Lost other people's money too. He's facing criminal charges." I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just emptiness where family should have been. "And you're telling me this why?" Keisha took a shaky breath. "Mom's broke. The house is in foreclosure. She's been working retail for the past year. She's 63 and stocking shelves." I thought. I don't know what I thought. That you should know? That maybe you'd care. "I stopped caring a long time ago," I said, and it was true. She made sure of that. Keisha started crying, that awful choking sound of someone who'd held it in too long. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you. I was a coward. I chose easy over right, and I've regretted it every day since you left. But she's still our mother and she's suffering." And I thought. "She called me her biggest regret," I interrupted, my voice steel. "In front of everyone. On my birthday. And you told me to apologize to her. So no, Keisha. I don't care if she's suffering. She taught me that some people aren't worth caring about. She taught me that lesson perfectly." I hung up before she could respond. 3 months after Keisha's call, my company acquired a logistics subsidiary. We needed warehouse space and distribution capabilities to expand our services to product-based businesses. The acquisition included 3 facilities and about 200 employees. I was reviewing the employee roster when my assistant, James, pointed to a name. "We've got several people here in their 60s. Might want to consider retention packages or early retirement options." One name stopped me cold. Diane Patterson. My mother's name. But it couldn't be. Patterson was common. It was probably coincidence. "Pull the file on this one," I said, pointing. James brought it up on the screen. There she was. Older, harder, her hair gray instead of the black I remembered. Employment history. Retail clerk, warehouse associate, customer service. Current position. Warehouse inventory specialist at our newest facility. Salary, $38,000 a year. My mother was working for my company. The universe had a sense of humor after all. James noticed my expression. "You know her." I considered lying but settled on a version of truth. I used to. He nodded, sensing there was more but respecting my privacy. Want me to handle the retention analysis? I shook my head. No. I'll do it. That night I pulled her complete file. 9 years of her life in documents. The house foreclosure Keisha mentioned. Bankruptcy filing. Dad's divorce papers. Irreconcilable differences. Abandonment of financial responsibilities. She'd gone from middle-class comfort to working paycheck to paycheck, and the fall had been hard. Performance reviews showed she was adequate but not exceptional. Attendance was spotty. Medical issues, the reports said. I had power over her now. Total power. I could fire her with a phone call. Make her unemployment. Let her suffer the way she'd made me suffer. The thought sat heavy in my chest. Was I cruel enough? Did 9 years of absence and success mean I'd become exactly what she'd always implied I was? Ungrateful, vindictive, heartless? Or was there another path, one I couldn't quite see yet? I flew to the warehouse facility unannounced. Regional managers scrambled when corporate showed up without warning, but I assured them it was just an inspection tour. The warehouse was massive. Concrete floors, metal shelves reaching toward industrial ceilings, the smell of cardboard and machinery oil. Workers in company uniforms moved efficiently, scanning packages, organizing inventory. And there she was. Smaller than I remembered. Frilier. Her gray hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her uniform clean but worn. She was checking items against a tablet, her face lined with concentration and exhaustion. She hadn't seen me yet. I watched from behind a stack of pallets. This woman who'd given me life and then spent 23 years making me wish she hadn't. A younger worker, maybe 25, approached her. Diane, you're scheduled for Section B today, not C. Mom looked confused, checking her tablet. The system said C. I've been here for 2 hours doing C. The young woman, her name tag read Supervisor Miller, sighed with exaggerated patience. Well, the system was wrong. You need to redo everything in B. And try to move faster. You're behind quota again. I watched my mother's shoulders slump. Watched her nod meekly and shuffle toward Section B. This woman who'd once ruled our household with cutting remarks and cruel comparisons was being condescended to by someone young enough to be her granddaughter. And she took it because she had no choice. Because this job, this minimum wage warehouse position at a company she didn't know belonged to her daughter, was all she had. Part of me felt vindicated. This was justice, wasn't it? But another part, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, felt something else. Not pity exactly. Maybe recognition. We were both products of circumstance, she and I. She'd been cruel because someone had been cruel to her. The cycle had to end somewhere. I called an executive meeting the next morning. I want to implement a new program, I announced to my leadership team. For employees over 60, especially those in physically demanding positions, I want to create pathways to different roles. Training programs, mentorship opportunities, transition positions that use their experience without breaking their bodies. My CFO raised an eyebrow. That's expensive. What's the ROI? The ROI is that we're not monsters, I said flatly. We're going to do this because it's right. And because I'm the CEO and I said so. Later, James found me in my office. This is about Diane Patterson, isn't it? He'd figured it out. James was smart like that. I nodded. She's my mother. She made my childhood hell. Called me her biggest regret. I haven't spoken to her in 9 years. James sat down, processing. And now she works for you. And you're helping her. I stared out the window at the city below. I'm not helping her. I'm implementing a company-wide policy that happens to benefit her and 200 other people who deserve better. There's a difference. But was there? Was this mercy or just revenge disguised as benevolence? Keeping her close but forever ignorant of who was actually saving her? You could tell her, James said quietly. Let her know. I shook my head. What would that accomplish? She'd feel humiliated, I'd feel vindicated, and nothing would really change. She'd still be the woman who wished I was never born. I'd still be the daughter who wasn't enough. Some distances can't be crossed, James. Some damage can't be undone. But I made sure she was selected for the program. Made sure she was trained for a less physical role in quality assurance. Made sure her salary increased by $15,000. Made sure she had health insurance that would actually cover her medical issues. And I did it all anonymously through corporate policy and bureaucratic channels. She'd never know I was behind it. She'd never know I'd saved her. A year later, I was back at the facility for the program's annual review. 80% retention rate, 25% productivity increase. Employee satisfaction through the roof. It was working. We'd proven that investing in people, even older people, even warehouse workers, even the forgotten ones, made good business sense. Other companies were already copying our model. I saw Mom from across the break room. She was laughing with coworkers, looking healthier. The supervisor who'd condescended to her was gone, fired for unrelated performance issues. Mom had even been promoted to lead quality assurance specialist. She had no idea that every step of her improvement had been orchestrated by the daughter she'd destroyed. Keisha had called again last month. Mom asks about you sometimes, she'd said. Wonders what happened to you. He's different now, softer. Losing everything changed her. Maybe. But I'd stopped her. Maybe meant hope, and I was done with hope where my mother was concerned. Hope was the thing that had kept me chained to her approval for 23 years. I watched Mom leave the building that evening, walking to her modest car, probably heading to the small apartment she rented. She'd never have her old life back. She'd never know her daughter had become successful beyond imagination. She'd never know that the company providing her stability was built by the child she'd called a regret. And I realized that this was my peace, not in her knowing and being sorry, but in my knowing I'd become everything she said I couldn't be, without her, despite her, because of her. The girl who wasn't wanted had built an empire. The biggest regret had become someone's best investment. And my mother would spend the rest of her working days in the shadow of my success, never knowing she stood in it. That was enough. It had to be. Because forgiveness would mean pretending the damage wasn't real. And the damage was real. It would always be real. I got in my car, luxury leather, new car smell, and drove back to corporate headquarters. I had a board meeting in the morning. Expansion plans to finalize. An empire to run. And a mother who'd never see my face again, working in a warehouse I owned, surviving on mercy she didn't know came from me. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some daughters never get apologies. Some mothers never realize what they lost. But survival, success, freedom from needing their validation, that's its own kind of ending. Not happy, not sad. It's mine. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Share your own stories in the comments. Your voice matters. What would you have done? Would you reveal the truth or let them live in ignorance? Let me know below. And remember, the best revenge isn't making them hurt. It's building a life so complete that their absence becomes irrelevant. Thank you for being here. Your support means everything. Note: this story explores complex themes of family trauma, success, and the complicated nature of closure. If you're struggling with family relationships, please know your feelings are valid. Sometimes the healthiest choice is distance. Sometimes the closure comes not from reconciliation, but from building a life they can no longer touch.